afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Suit Up Geek Fix podcast. I'm Lo, he's Dibes. Apologies for missing last week, but we are back on track with another Monsters at Work episode review. This week is episode 6. Without further ado, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. We will be spoiling this episode. Please watch it on Disney Plus if you haven't yet. This episode was particularly entertaining. I feel like this show is much better than expectation, and I'm pleasantly surprised each week with how they keep surprising me with how good it is, how funny it is. I've laughed at every single episode, which is definitely a barometer for whether or not I'm going to continue watching this show for more seasons. So what about you, Dives? What are your first impressions so far, and how are you liking the season as a whole so far?
I thought overall, I'll answer the last one first. I think it's getting, it has definitely gotten a lot better than the first 2 episodes. I wasn't bought in, but over time, I'm really enjoying the Mifters. I'm really enjoying Tyler's development. I'm really enjoying Mike and Sully kind of being in the background and doing their funny things. Like, who doesn't love these adorable monsters? I do. I love them all. I thought the overall episode was pretty solid. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It didn't bring anything fresh, I think, this week. It didn't really move the series forward. I thought Duncan was the standout, man. I thought Duncan really carried this one. I thought the fact that we were holding a funeral for a vending machine was absolutely hilarious. And I actually have some connection to that. I don't know about you, man. You know how much I love to cook. So like we have like running jokes in our family. Like when our rice cooker died, like we had a whole thing. Like we said goodbye, and when our coffee maker died, we said goodbye. Like it's a running joke how like these appliances are literally part of our family. We use them every day, every single day. So I got that. Back to the episode, I thought it was solid. I thought the duo of Duncan and Tyler carried this one, and we're starting to see kind of like we're on the tail end now, the back end of this season, and it truly is about Tyler's growth, and that really was emphasized this week.
By the way, I don't recall. Do you know the episode count for this season?
I think it's 10.
Okay, cool. So we are about the midway point. So last week, just to touch on it really quickly, was episode 5, the cover up. Fritz went on vacation, and Duncan was acting supervisor because he was a whiny baby about it. Really quickly, I just want to shout out last week's episode because when Fritz was given an option to take a vacation through one of the special doors, one of them was a cabin in the woods, and a freaking merman came out. Yes, 10 out of 10 reference. I love that. The week prior, we had Fright Club. You don't talk about Fright Club. And then the next week after, we had the cabin in the woods with a freaking merman. So hats off to the Monsters at Work scriptwriters. Like, whether or not these filler episodes are terribly investing in terms of emotional character stories, probably not. But these references are awesome. So just wanted to shout out last week's episode. Going back to this one, I think you're right. Duncan has grown on me. I felt like initially I was like, okay, so he's the heel. He's going to be the typical bad guy, bully, annoying guy. But really, there is a lot more depth to him. It kind of reminds me of Dwight and Jim from The Office. I'm not saying Duncan is on that level of Dwight yet, because Dwight is a very lovable, annoying character. But he's growing on me a little bit. So hats off to him. And also hats off to Henry Winkler, man. Like I was on your side where I thought Fritz was a little bit too much, but he's really grown on me as like the Papa Bear of the Mifting crew, and his voice style. I feel like I would enjoy it more of seeing him because Henry Winkler is so animated when he is in person. But it's starting to grow on me as well with his character as Fritz. So, any memorable moments that stood out for you for this episode?
I got to Mike staring at the painting of the green ball was really funny. I don't know, like. I don't know why I found that so funny, but it was like Mike said something along the lines of like, I don't know what it is, but it just speaks to me. Like
he was like, it's nothing and everything at the same time.
He's so good,
dude. Breakfast Club. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
Or like that Breakfast Club kids. Oh no, sorry. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where his best friend was staring at the painting, and it just like he felt like he like it looked into his soul or something, you know. So another reference.
Then Mike saw another painting, and it was clearly Sully, and he had no idea what it was or what it represented. It was just kind of like showed you like how truly, Mike's a narcissist. He is what he is, and his love for himself is like something that only like a great Loki character would appreciate, if you know what I mean. Like, he just straight up narcissist. I like I said, Duncan owned this one. I haven't been the biggest Duncan fan at the start of the season, but that moment where he's like doing this like war monologue and writing a letter to his mom, that really got me pretty good. I laughed really hard with that. And then like that last like the little moments, right, where the Mifters come together. None of them are getting fired, and they're all like, they're all celebrating. Cheers! And Duncan's like, yeah, fine, whatever. Cheers. I love how they're all coming together, and Duncan owned this one for me.
You know what's funny is I'm really glad you brought up Mike, because he was my MVP for this episode. So the thing I love about this show so far is just like all the work setting references that children probably don't understand, but making budget cuts, trying to boost morale. And Mike figured out, if we boost morale, we'll boost profits. And he buys foosball machines, he buys the paintings that you discussed. And then I loved how he was handing out money. Sully's like, is that money? Where did you get that? And Mike's like, oh, I got it in the jar underneath your bed. Like, fantastic. Like, you're right. Like, he's self-centered. Billy Crystal at his freaking best, just a mile a minute. Like, this is what we're gonna do, and it's gonna be great. It's just like, I love Mike Wazowski. Billy Crystal and that character are just married for me. That stole the show for me, man. Overall, what would you grade this episode, and how do you feel about going forward? Do you think this is going to maintain your interest? Like, are you excited if they continue with this series?
Yeah, 100%. I give it a 7 out of 10. It was the 6th episode was okay. It wasn't, which isn't exactly a bad thing. Like, I was entertained the entire episode. Nothing about it blew me away like some of the previous episodes. That, like, last week's episode, I thought was a little bit better than this week's episode. But I would probably put this episode right in that average range. But which is pretty good. I think it's pretty good. So I'm in around that 7 out of 10. And yes, I'm 100% sold. These adorable monsters, Monsters Inc. Like, give us more the more world building with Monsters Inc., the better. If I don't know if it's been announced that there's a season 2. I'm not sure yet. But if there is, I'm 100% in. I love these guys to death. And I definitely am sold with that Tyler Duncan duo. I think that's where this show is kind of evolving into, that little duo, and where that goes. I'm 100% in to see where it ends up.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm about the same range. I'm more of like a 7.3.
Okay.
I can't complain because I laughed multiple times, which is saying a lot about a show intended for children, but also a short 30-minute show that, on paper, a lot of people were like, do we really need a Monsters Incorporated TV show? And I think right now, it's a pretty like resounding yes for me. I think this was everything I wanted Monsters University to be, in terms of continuing Mike and Sully's story and seeing the screams turn into laughs and seeing that actually come to life. I love it so far. If they continue with this and just keep the consistency, which is something that I think TV shows, that makes or breaks a TV show, is whether you can maintain its legs and keep being funny, keep being entertaining and all that. So far, so good. 6 out of 6, entertaining, very funny episodes. I'll give it about a 7.3. Shouts out to, I think his name was Haggis. He was a monster that was literally bagpipes.
I know.
He was literally bagpipes. That was awesome.
And then go back to the one where they're bowling and like the bowling pin characters. Yes. I love these little characters. It's so funny.
It's so great, funny, man. As long as the writers just keep on surprising us pleasantly with these new characters, these funny references to old films, I think they got ourselves a pretty good show. So I think that about wraps it up, man. Dibes, what do we got going on in terms of the channel, and where can we find you?
Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. But August 14th and 15th, our next movie draft will go down, and that is the greatest animation movie draft of all time. All movies are on the board: anime, DreamWorks, Disney, Pixar, Studio Ghibli, everything is on the board. It's going to be 20 teams. We're almost filled out. 20 teams, 2 different nights, the 14th at 8 p.m. East Coast time, as well as the 15th, 8 p.m. East Coast time. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a giant bracket this time because we had to extend it. I think we'll do like 5 rounds. But there's just so many films. There's so many movies to choose from. And yeah, that's pretty much it. What about you?
I was going to say it might take a little longer, but I think for this one, we can go 6 rounds. I think there's enough animated products to go around.
Okay.
I'm excited. So yeah, he's Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. You can follow him at Mr. Crockpot. You can follow this channel at The Suit Up Geeks on Twitter as well as YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcellus Durden. So yes, please stay tuned on this channel for more Monsters at Work reviews. If you like this, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. We got the animation drafts. We got more film drafts coming. We got Bad Batch reviews. And of course, we will have a lot of Marvel content to talk about in the future. Okay. So for Dibes and myself, thank you guys for watching. Take care.